I'm going to start by talking about the farm cheese that we're making. I've got a pot here of whole milk, 1 gallon whole milk. I've got the milk at about 90 degrees, and a little behind the scenes, I also have a little calcium chloride added to it because we're using store-bought pasteurized product. Calcium chloride helps with the protein structure in here. I don't know the nitty-gritty of it, but it helps the cheese curd form. So I've got a little calcium chloride in there. Well, all I'm going to do right now is add mesophilic starter culture. Okay, mesophilic, warm. This bacteria likes warm environments. So we've got 90-degree warm milk. We're going to drop this in there, and we'll just let it hang out for about 45 minutes. And these guys are going to do exactly what I mentioned yesterday. They're going to just go to town on the lactose, the milk sugar in here, chew it all up, and they'll create lactic acid, so it'll increase the acidity of this milk. And then in about 45 minutes, we will go to the next step, which is add the rennet, which is our coagulant. And 45 minutes after that, we should have milk jello. This pot should just set up into jello, okay? So this process is we're gonna just follow this throughout the day. By the time we get to the demo, we'll be able to press the curd in the cheese press back here. Each time I get to a step, I'll just yell to you guys in the kitchen, and if you're interested in coming over and checking it out, come on over. So all I'm gonna do is just drizzle this in here. I'll stir it for about a half a minute just to make sure it's thoroughly distributed, and then we won't touch this thing. Okay, so that's it. We're going to go ahead and start with the cheese that we were making, that we started this morning in the kitchen. At the end of class, some of you may have saw I just had this lined with cheesecloth, and I ladled out all of the curd into here, just like you were doing with your cheese. I bundled it all up, tied it to this spoon, and then just let it hang in this pot while we were downstairs, okay? In that time, well, I guess I can't really show you, but there's a good couple quarts here in this pot of whey that came off of it initially. And then over the course of the last hour, while it's been hanging, there's probably another almost 2 cups of whey that has come off of that, okay? I mentioned yesterday or this morning how milk, in general terms, I mean sheep, cow, and goat, they all vary a little bit. But in general, about 7/8 of the milk is water, and 1/8 of it is solids, and that's what we're working with, is that 1/8 when we're looking for cheese. So cheese is not a high-yielding product when you start with a gallon of milk. Anyone know how much a gallon weighs? Let's just say a pint's a pound. Yeah, about 8 pounds, roughly. When this is done, we'll have about a pound of cheese. Maybe, so 1/8 of it, okay? All right, so I've got the curd here, and if I can get it untied, I'll go ahead and pour it out in this colander. I'll just do it right there. And you guys can see it. It dries out quite a bit on the exterior, just over that little bit of time. And there should be a good amount of moisture on the interior. I have to say this batch of curd is a lot more firm than the last batch. Previous batch I did, guys, please, thanks. Previous batch that I did was really, really slack. I ended up not being able to keep the cheese. When I age it, the easiest way for me to age it and not have to fight off bacterial growth in the form of mold and the likes is I cryovac it. I go ahead and put it in a little cryovac and then age it that way in a quote-unquote cellar. And when I cryovac'd it, it just squeezed it, and over the next day or so, just like in your quiz as you read, it weeped out a ton more whey and just started to turn into soup right in the plastic bag. So I got rid of it. This is nice and firm. We'll definitely get something out of this here. So you can see it's firm enough it holds its shape. Like I said, if we were to let this go a little longer, so it's a little bit drier, tomorrow you could take this and turn it into mozzarella. This type of curd will work. Won't quite have the same flavor profile as mozzarella because, again, we don't have the same starter going on there, but it would work. So here you go. Not too shabby. What I'm going to do from here, I'm just going to break it up into little pieces. I will salt it, again, to help extract more moisture. make this product a little bit more shelf stable as it ages, and also to bring a little bit of taste to it. And then if you're up for it, I brought a little bit of chipotle chili powder. We'll just toss a little bit of that on there as well, because working with the store-bought milk, we tend to get a less than spectacular flavor out of the cheese anyhow, so it's nice to add a little something else to it, okay? So over in that pot I poured off the whey, I'm gonna go ahead and heat that up to right somewhere in the ballpark of 200 to 210 degrees, and we're gonna recook it and see what little residual curd we can get off of that in the form of ricotta, okay? And it will be a very small amount, but hopefully you'll get to see something there and see that process as well. All right? Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, this is very firm. It'll be interesting 3 weeks from now what this is like. Might be a little on the dry side. That's one of the advantages of the CryoVac, is it does hold some of that moisture in. You don't have as much loss to evaporation, so that'll help us out with this particular batch here. And here goes the salt. Just about a tablespoon or so. Yeah, this is very user-friendly curd right here, the way it is so dry. I don't have to worry about it breaking up too much as I'm tossing it. Usually I get quite a bit of whey coming out of it as I'm sitting here tossing it, but not this batch. Just a small amount of this. I find it gets kind of almost like a chemical aftertaste to it if I put too much of it in there. Cheese. Lightly toss it. And this is no comparison to the chipotle cheddar that you guys have on the EID test. That stuff's good. This stuff will be good, but it doesn't compare at all. Boom. Okie doke. So, just to throw more information at you, this process that I did, this curd, the starter, everything I used is exactly the same that you would use to make cheddar. So when I got to this stage of straining and then hanging, instead of hanging, I could have left it in the pot here and started cutting and stacking. It's just when I'm using such a small amount, the stacking, there's not a lot of weight there. We really don't get a lot of stretching out of the curd there. And like I said, it's also a much longer process. We wouldn't get depressed during the demo. I'm gonna line it with a little bit of cheesecloth. I will also wrap the chaser or the following piece behind it in a little bit of cheesecloth. Do I need to do this? Not really. It does help with the release of the cheese when I go to flip it and try and pull it out of the hoop, but it's not something you got to do. I did have one cheesemaker say that you have to do it because this was someone who is of an artisanal nature. They didn't want anything to be of the mass-produced, smooth textured, so a little bit of that residual texture of the cheesecloth that shows up on the finished product, that's what it's worth. In my head, I was sitting there going, well, I know you can buy plastic hoops that have like basket weave look to it and stuff like that, so you could still mass produce and have it look like that. Okay, we'll just drop all this in there. The main reason I go after the CryoVac is I don't like having to fight off the mold growth. We had an instructor who used to work here who worked on a farm where they went from milking the cow all the way through the cheese making process. And so when I found out about that, I was asking him all about it. Man, yeah, cheese making, that's got to be great. What do you know? What do you remember? Give me some of the inside stuff. And he said, it's just like the restaurant industry. Everyone's like, it must be great to be a chef. Except come Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, all the holidays when you're working and everyone else is out partying. It's the same thing. He's like, all I remember doing is sterilizing, sanitizing, and wearing big old masks so that I'm not, injuring my lungs as I'm dusting off all the molds on the cheese and the caves and da 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 da. That's not very romantic. So, anyhow, at home I don't know the molds. I'm like, okay, this is blue mold. I think that's okay. And wait a minute, black mold. I don't think that's what I want there. And then I'm writing into the cheese makers and saying, what do I do with this? Is this all right? And then, you know, at the end of 3 months of doing that, you're like, do I really want to eat it? Do I trust myself? So there you go. I still have some milk solids in the way because it is a little bit cloudy as it comes out of here, which is a little bit of loss in yield. But this is fine. I'll let this sit for about 15 minutes. And I've got it at about 20 PSI, which is what I was shooting for. And then what we'll do is we'll pull it out, we'll flip it, and I'll press it again for about an hour. Then I'll pull it out, flip it, press it again. I'll leave it in the press overnight. And tomorrow morning, you guys will get to see it when you come into class. Another part of the romantic side of cheese is you have to continually flip, 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 flip on a very regular basis early on. Otherwise, all of that moisture settles to the bottom and just rots out. So that's another thing. At 2 in the morning, when we're sleeping, supposedly, I don't know, in our industry, there's not a lot of sleep involved, but there are people out there flipping the blue cheese. All right, there you go. So we'll let that sit there. I've got this up to about 180 right now, so we're going to start to see some movement in the pot. I will tell you that in prior batches that I've done with this, sometimes there's not quite enough acidity in there to get it to happen. So a little splash of apple cider vinegar or a little splash of lemon juice will take it over the top. All right, let's talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow, you get the pleasure of plating up your mozzarella, okay? You also have your lemon cheese. I would love for you to go after it. It's not a requirement. What is a requirement is that at the end of the kitchen time, you as an individual have 2 plates, okay? 2 cheese appetizer plates. It is garde manger, and you've got a lot of vinaigrette proficiencies. I would go after more of a cheese paired with a salad of some sort, so you can knock some of that off, as opposed to, here's cheese and crackers. I'm done. The 2 plates. Some students like to go after plating style and do multiple variations on one theme. So hey, I just work all mozzarella. Others like to play around with the different types of cheese and go after different flavor profiles along those lines, okay? I also do have platters. If you want to do a cheese platter, you can. I'm not going into platters yet, but if you want to, you can do that as well, okay? All I'm going to do today is play around with a couple very simple ingredients, put a few plates in front of you, let you guys go ahead and critique them. If nothing else, just get to start thinking about plating so that when you attack this tomorrow, you're in that mindset. And then we've got ourselves a cheese ID test to knock down. What I think you'll see tomorrow, those of you who go after the coulis, when we lay out the plates, all the variations on the same theme. It's amazing what a little tablespoon of olive oil will do to change the color, the mouthfeel of the coulis. So you start seeing orange, dark red, you know, and all kinds of different stuff based on, hey, I threw a little tomato paste in there, or I used too much oil. I find it real educational. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and throw some plates down for you so you can take a look at them. I'm kind of light on the setup. The way demos tend to work in this class, anything that I have up here on the trays, whether I actually utilize them or not, that's what's been ordered. So that's what's available in the kitchen, unless something odd happens. So if you're looking at this going, boy, they don't have any mosh, and I want mosh, that would be something you want to just either talk to me after class or make sure you get on the shopping list in the morning. Although I do know we have mosh on the walk-in right now, if you want mosh. Okay. All I'm doing here is tearing up a little bit of the red leaf lettuce. All right, so the greens, I'll play with those. Let's take a look at our little roulade from this morning. Should probably do this last since it's going to make a mess on the board, but that's all right. Now, this is interesting. In the library, there's a ACF culinary competition book. If any of you are interested in doing practical testing or actually competing, kind of goes through a lot of how to plate, how to handle, mise en place, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things they have in there is when you're slicing roulades and rolled products, leave them in their plastic, slice them first, and then remove the plastic. And I think part of it is the idea of the plastic helps hold its shape and all that, which I agree with if I'm very focused and I'm doing relatively small batches. But personally, if I'm slicing up for 200, the idea of miscellaneous plastic being left in with the food, to me, outweighs it. So I always unravel and just go from there. All right. What do we got? Well, there you go. I'm going to need my paper towel. You saw how I put such a small amount of pesto on this morning. One of the nice things about that is I don't have pesto oozing out everywhere, so it's a pretty clean looking roulade. You can see the rounds. And as I'm slicing it here, I don't have to spend a lot of time and effort re-cleaning my blade with each slice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I'll do this. 7. And it's starting to unravel a little bit here on the end. A little bit more pesto down there too. Okay. That's that guy. I got some asparagus here that Chef Ginger went ahead and blanched and shocked. And I've got a tomato that I'm going to manipulate as well, and then we'll just play with these basic ingredients. Asparagus. I'll split these guys, or at least a couple of them. And then we'll see where we get. I guess these I'll just cut up. No. All I'm doing as far as cuts here, I split 2 of them lengthwise. And you can see these guys are just little sticks, and these guys are sliced on the bias just to show different cuts, give a little different feel on the plate, and hopefully we'll use all of those in different ways. And then the tomato. On the tomato, well, I think I want to do some basic slices, keep it pretty straightforward and simple. So I will use a few of these. Yeah. See what we got. Take some of these for a plate here. Some of these. Some of those. Okay. And then we'll plate. Okay. Got a little bit of arugula. For 2 of them, I'm going to use the same basic mix. So arugula, a little frisee. And what's the general flavor profile of arugula? Okay. What about frisee? Okay. What about red leaf? Hey. Yeah. Spicy, bitter, and mild. So we've got a combination of them. I've got more spicy and bitter here than I do have mild. The thought is I'm going up against something fatty to help counter it a little bit, but I think I'm still going to have some good zip there. All right. Let's do a basic plate. Basic plate. Salt, little pepper. Toss these guys together. Actually, if I'm doing the basic plate, I'm going to take this. Go. Now I'm just going to set this up. I'll set up all three and then I'll let you guys make comments. I can handle the comments. Just remember, I get to grade your plates tomorrow. And also, I got to warn you, oftentimes, I am specifically doing things to the plate that may be incorrect just to see who's awake, who's not. Get a little sauce, a little thick sauce. Okay, so there's one plate. Just think about it, look at it. If you want to come up and look at it again, what's up there, what's here, very different looking. Next guy up, get these out of here. Well, I'll let them stay. Same basic ingredients. I thought this was thin enough. All right, let me just pick it up. One, two, three. Yikes. And the last guy, I don't know, we'll see. Might be a little bit kooky. See what we can do. Ha. These guys can be marinated in anything, but just to give a little different look, we'll do a secondary little salad back here of those. We'll just have this guy kind of shooting up off of it like that. And a little much, but just pull it through like that. Something like that. Okay? I think, I'll tell you, on this one, I think it's too much greens. Not necessarily portion size, but in relationship to the other items there, very heavy on the greens. Pull some of those greens out of there, it would be a tighter looking little plate, and I think that would work. But I also agree that watch the cheese. I think I could have sliced these thinner and had 3 on there, and it would be just fine. Okay. 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 And again, that's a preference thing. I have no problem with that. And okay.
Like this smear, I think was just the way it turned out.
Okay.
It's really pretty.
Cool.
The orange with the tomato and the green, it's just kind of a contrasting color. It doesn't,
Yeah, I
it's not
was gonna say,
appealing
I
to the
don't
eye.
like
I'm looking at it now and it's just not very appealing to
Yeah.
the eye.
Yeah, and that can be changed based on how you attack your coulis a little bit.
Red, yellow,
But you know, another comment I get a lot is, well, you got tomato here, you get an overkill on all that. You know,
If you would have the cheese like not directly on the plate too, add like some like, a white little contrast and stand
Yep.
out a little more. Maybe
Yeah.
bring it out to your eye a little
Yeah.
bit.
if like there wasn't tomatoes and asparagus like sharing sides on this plate, like if they were like maybe
on the same side.
that's my favorite plate because there's more open space on the plate and it really draws your attention to the salad. When the other ones are kind of spread out across the plate, it
Okay.
doesn't look as much as like as artistic or like, hey, there's a salad. It's more just like, hey, here's a plate with lots of stuff on it. When that one kind of has,
Get used to negative.
Okay.
yeah, exactly. It has the proper ratio.
Cool. I'll tell you what.
On the rectangular plate, I use a different crostini because the shape is kind of getting obscene and becoming the focal point.
Okay. The shape of the crostini.
No, that one.
Oh, this one here.
Yeah.
Okay. I got you. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Well, yeah.
And that becomes the focal point too, rather than the cheese.
Right. Right. And ideally, I'll tell you what. For as far as I'm concerned, the shape, yeah, that okay. I could change that quite easily with a different crostini.
Yeah.
But beyond that, having a focal point isn't a bad thing if it isn't right on the cheese, as long as it's brings your eye to it. You know, you hit that, and as you come down it, oh, there it is. I'll tell you what. Any of these serve tomorrow, A+. Because I made them. No, no, but I think they're in the ballpark. I think they're a little heavy, but if we go after basic components of it, you've got your main ingredient, and it's showcased. You've got a secondary salad or secondary edible. You have the sauce, and you have a garnish. That's what I'm looking for, and then we can get into the nitty-gritties. I love hearing everyone's differing opinions because that's what makes all this so beautiful, is that you go to a restaurant and go, wow, I never would have thought of that because that's not my style, but it works. How neat.